Hi, and welcome to How to Love Living. My name is Jeremy, and this podcast is something that I started last year in the fall, and it's been a year, and I've only put out 20 episodes. And really, this is the 20th episode of the podcast. I'm really excited to just kind of revisit the different things that we've discussed over time about the different concepts we've gone through. Right now, I'm trying a different format, so it's taken me a while to kind of get back into the rigmarole. So part of it is going through and putting a focus on video. I think video is really good. I think it's a way to engage with my audience in a way that is different than just with audio. So I'm both providing the audio and the video, and so the video will be located on YouTube under How to Love Living, the audio on all the major platforms for the podcast, so that will be going out to both areas. And I do encourage you to go and visit the videos on YouTube, like, subscribe, take a look at who I am and what I'm about and all that fun stuff. In this episode, I just want to talk a little bit about the challenges that have been going on in my life and the things that have kind of kept me in a busy place. And, I think to a point, things that have really put me in a place where I'm like, okay, I need to take a break. I need to kind of get back into the things I want to do, which the podcast is definitely one of those things I want to do. It's something that brings a lot of reward to me, but I'm challenging myself. So I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable position where I am, getting out in front of others, putting this content out onto a place where, you have to be vulnerable and you have to be a bit uncomfortable. And it's funny because you think about it and you're like, well, it isn't that hard. All you have to do is get a camera set up and record yourself. But the reality is there's a lot of, nervousness that you have about what do people think of you, how will you come across, and all that stuff. But what I've learned in life is you just have to kind of dive in. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm starting off right now. I have, the camera equipment and everything I have here. And I'm just going to dive in. I'll fix things as I kind of go. So this is kind of the first, jump into doing video. But over time, it'll get better, I believe. So over time, I will get more comfortable with the camera. It'll be more natural to me. I'll get more comfortable with doing the podcast again and doing the videos and really jump into it. The challenges that I've had over the past few months has been pretty interesting. Of course, we're going through the pandemic. The pandemic was one of those things where really it inspired me to start the podcast. It's something that's been on my mind previous to the pandemic, but with the pandemic, it really inspired me to sit down and really put my thoughts together on how we live our lives and how we approach and navigate through some of the difficulties of life and how we live our best lives with the most success, and how do we do this in a way that's authentic to ourselves, that gets us the things that we need while being a good person and being a good person to those around you and being kind, setting those boundaries with people and that sort of stuff. In the past few months, for me, I have gone through a bunch of stuff. So I'd gone through and I threw my back out, and I was out for, it took a while this time for it to recover. Typically, the worst case of back issues I've had in the past, it took like 2 weeks to recover from it. This one has taken a couple months, but it's kind of life. Like, that's what happens with life is, different things will come and different maladies will appear or challenges will appear. And it's navigating through it. It's setting boundaries on what you're capable of and what you can do, and then navigating through it. So with my back, I knew that I needed to take a break. I knew that, with work, I was taking on a new role with new responsibilities with a new team, and I was dealing with back issues. I knew that I needed to put a lot of focus into my self-care and a lot of focus into the things that will help me see a long-term positive outcome. And that's why I took a break from the podcast. That's why I took a break from life in general for a little bit as I kind of navigated through just the back pain. Luckily, it's much better, and I'm in a better place now, and I'm happy. I've navigated through all the challenges, that kind of come up with taking on a new role, and I'm feeling much more comfortable and much happier as I'm learning new things, taking on new challenges, learning new technology and new concepts and that. So it's been very exciting. And one thing that kind of came out of that is when you can overcome humps, so when you are faced with a challenge and you can overcome it, so taking on a new role, where you're able to get into the role, really work with the challenges within that role. So for me, a lot of the challenges were just around learning the different personalities on a new team, learning how the processes and procedures work for the team, learning all the technologies that the team is interfacing with, and then taking classes. So right now I just finished up a 3-day class on Amazon Web Services architecting, and I'm going to work on my certification. So that's something I'm going to do kind of in my spare time outside of, work, outside of the podcast, outside of all that. And I'm really excited about that. And it's something that I've never learned, network architecting. I know a lot about, a bit about programming, a lot about databases and working with software, but I haven't worked with architecting. So it's kind of exciting. It's just something new, different. It's not comfortable because I'm learning new things, but it's something that will bring a lot of skills and a lot of, long-term success, I believe, by learning this. And this will just be one component of a lot of different things I'm learning. And so I'll put it out there that even 6 months ago, I never imagined I'd be learning the things I'm learning now. And that's how life kind of goes, is if you can have that flexibility to be open to learning new skills and being open to new opportunities is helpful in kind of navigating through all the challenges that are just put in front of us and being our best selves and putting ourselves forward in a way that can meet those challenges. So now we're in Pandemic Part 2, and am I excited about Pandemic Part 2? No, I'm not excited about Pandemic Part 2. I wasn't excited about Pandemic Part 1, but with Part 2, it's been kind of it is a bummer, I guess is the kind way to put it, because it's just really, really disappointing that in the end, we did all this due diligence, and in the end, we're still kind of in a mini lockdown, and I think people are, kind of pandemic wary and are done, and I think we're navigating out of the pandemic. I think it's going to be a bit longer. I think that our society has changed. I think we have changed. I'm hoping for the better on all of it. And, hopefully what will come out of this is everyone has taken some time for some self-reflection. And, everything I'm reading in the news and in just the things I'm seeing, I do believe people are doing that. I think people, have had more time to really sit down and spend more time. I've spent more quality time in several parts of my life. I spent more quality time just at work. I work extra hours and it feels good. I catch up a little bit. I spent a lot of quality time with myself, just kind of exploring what I want, how I want to live life, how I want to participate. Like one of the things that have come out of my quality time is I'm doing the morning pages. This is comes from a book by Julia Cameron, The Artist Way, and she talks about doing morning pages where what you do is early in the morning before you do anything, you just write about everything you're feeling, and you don't read it, you just write about it. And I think that's something that can alleviate a lot of stress. You can put like your deepest, darkest secrets that you're hiding from people or that you don't want to face onto it. Never read it. Just put it out into the ether and know that you're going to get some attention to that, and know that you're kind of getting that out of your system. You're not going to get attention to it, but you are going to get it out of your system because you are going through and writing about it and putting it out there. So the anxiety of the pandemic has been there for me. We're all going through a bit of anxiety, and I think that we're all excited about normalcy. And with the pandemic, I know the phraseology, this too shall pass. It's something I've talked about in the past, and I think with the pandemic, that's where you got to look at it. You got to look at it as this too shall pass. We're going to get through this. We're going to see the other end of it. It's not going to be easy. It's both challenging for everyone in all the different ways. So it's challenging in, physical health aspects. It's challenging in mental health aspects. It's challenging in lifestyle aspects. And I think that as we get more and more out of the pandemic and get more and more freedom to do the things we want to do, to participate in life the way we want to with other people and not have those boundaries, I think we'll be a lot happier. I think that in the end, we'll see a lot more happiness in our life if we can get to that point. So, things that have given me peace as I've worked through the past year is just learning, and these are things I've talked about in the podcast, and this is kind of a review episode to kind of catch both me, who I've been, I got all the episodes here and I got it all mapped out, but it's good to kind of see, and review kind of what we've gone through in the past year. And then, I can talk a bit about what I want to kind of talk about into the future. And, some of the things I talked about in this last year is trusting others. I think that, even though we go through a lot of challenges with people, and humanity is not perfect at all. I mean, we can see this in how we see our fellow human beings treat each other. We see this in different conflicts and the things that have gone on all over the world. We even see this within our nation. And, of course, I'm an advocate for peace. I want everyone to live a happy and successful life. I want everyone to have the joys of life that, I get experience at least, and hopefully more. And it's disappointing when we kind of have those setbacks. But through adversity comes change, and I believe that. And I have trust in my fellow human beings. I really do. Even when I see the worst of us come out, I have trust in my fellow human beings. And here's one of the reasons why, is everyone I know in my peer group is trustworthy at some level, that I can trust that everyone's going to be a good person, that if I put that positive, good energy out into the world, that will come back to me, and that will be something that other people will, put back to me. And of course, it's not going to be perfect. Everyone has kind of their good times, their bad times, their low times. If you're going through a low sugar moment and you haven't eaten and you're cranky, it's just stuff like that. That's just kind of normal stuff. But I don't believe that anyone in my peer group is truly malicious. Certainly people are capable of terrible things, but right now I'm very lucky to have people that are not malicious. And, if you're going through those things, then, it's setting boundaries and putting yourself out of situations where people are being malicious, and surrounding yourself with people who are good quality people that really speak to who you are as an individual. I think that's really important. And having come from a background that, where relationships were challenging, it was important for me to, put those relationships behind me because they just weren't healthy. They weren't bringing me up and, being part of a life that would be happy for me. So, and I think it's important to really, of course, care about others and be there for others. But I think it is good to have boundaries on, you know, if someone is treating you terribly, you shouldn't have to put up with it, and you should be able to set boundaries on that. And if they don't respect those boundaries, then that relationship is in peril, and it may end. And that's kind of life, and it's important for you and for me to set those boundaries so that we have those experiences. Sorry about the sounds. I live in the city, and so that kind of stuff will kind of pop up. So I apologize for it, but city living, you gotta love it. Um, the other is just taking day by day. So it's going through and taking each moment as it comes, working through the challenges, like with my back pain. It was a day by day process, like slowly over weeks it got better. And, it was seeing that very slow incremental improvement that helped me in just feeling better about the progress I was making. And I think that's important. The other thing I think that I worked on is just working on the things I could change, is working on what things can I control in these circumstances and then working on those. And that's something that as I have navigated through the pandemic in general, but life in general, I think that it's just taking things day by day, taking the things that you can control, working on them. If you either can't control them, don't have the wherewithal to deal with them, or what have you, then you have to put them aside and work on the things that you can control. One thing I have been working on is I've been working on kind of my mental focus. So, of course, life is going to have challenges. It's just the nature of being, and it's really, where's your mental focus? Is it going to focus on things like this relationship you're struggling with that you can't change, or is your focus going to be on learning a new skill or trying to engage with friendships that are healthy? If you're having car problems, you can't afford to get your car fixed. If you can't afford it, then you have to let it go and just work around that. Get public transportation, see if someone can help you out. But if you can't control it, you have to kind of let the car just be where it's at and focus on the things you can control. And in that circumstance, I've had that in the past. Like when I was younger, I had a car that broke down. I couldn't afford to fix it. And so what I did is I took public transit and I saved my money, and eventually I was able to get it fixed. It was like a 3-month process to save up, I think it was like $1,500 to repair that car. And back then I couldn't afford it. So I'm like, well, got to take public transit. I got to cut down on costs and then save that money. And, it's just doing things that you can within your control and living in a life where you're not constantly focused on the things that are going wrong. Rather, you're focused on what can I change, what can I make better, what can I do to make things better. And I think that's important, focusing, and I really do think a lot of happiness in life is your focus. And for me, one of the things that I do is I have a lot of hobbies, so I'm always busy. I play guitar, I do my podcast, I'm working in music. I took a music writing class, which I'm still finishing up, and it's been very exciting. I have been working on my class for the Amazon Web Services. I've been working with my team at work and, really just keeping myself very busy. Of course, I understand everyone has different circumstances. Some people have children. Some people have elderly that are taken care of. And so then it's navigating through figuring out space for yourself and then doing your due diligence so that you're supporting and helping those that you're responsible for, but in the same instance, giving yourself the space to be you and have that identity. And if you have the ability to have more space for yourself and your hobbies and things, I think that's really important. I think that's something that's really helpful. And if you're going through a low moment, or like for me, if I'm going through a low moment, or if I'm having like my chronic pain or whatever, then I'm giving myself space for that, where I'm not pushing myself. Rather, I kind of go into self-care mode where I go through and I give myself space for just working through those challenges, working through all the different pieces I need to do to get myself out of those circumstances or to work through and navigate through it. I think that things that have brought me strength definitely have been my relationships that I have, whatever stable things I can find. So that's hobbies, quality time with some TV, watching some of my favorite series, going on meditations, doing the morning pages, going for long walks once I've healed up enough. It's just doing the things that bring you happiness. The next thing let's talk about is, I think that the next thing I have is, just one day at a time. That's all. I mean, that's really it. I'm just reading through my notes. I wrote this a long time ago, and so I'm kind of going through and saying, okay, what do I have here that I want to talk about? What things am I going to skip? So I'm sorry, I'm going through this organically. What I'll say, though, is now that I'm going to start this weekly again and record it weekly, I think that the content will be fresher and I'll know it right off the hand because I've written it the day before or the day of. The last thing I want to talk about is, it's in the vein of "This too shall pass." And this is a quote from a book that I'm reading. It's one of my favorite books from a spiritual perspective. And this is Dropping Ashes on the Buddha. And this is by Sain San. And the quote is this is the quote, and I'll just kind of put it out there into the ether, into the YouTube podcast world and let it go. And the quote is this: "It is very important not to be attached either to thinking or to not thinking. You mustn't be upset by anything that goes on in your mind. Only don't worry and keep don't know mind. You say that in the beginning you were enthusiastic, now you're discouraged. Both extremes are no good. It's like a guitar string. If you make it too tight, it'll be out of tune and soon will snap. If you make it too loose, it'll still be out of tune and it will not play. You must tune it just right. Too enthusiastic is no good. Too discouraged is also no good. Zen mind is everyday mind. You must keep this in mind during every action: eating, talking, playing tennis, watching television. Always keep don't know mind. What is most important is how you keep your mind at this very moment. Just now mind. If you have free time, it's just good to sit. If you don't have free time, then just do actions then. But be very careful about wanting enlightenment. This is bad Zen sickness. When you keep a clear mind, the whole universe is you. You are the whole universe. So you have already attained enlightenment. Wanting enlightenment is only thinking. It is something extra, like painting legs on a picture of a snake. Already the snake is complete as it is. Already the truth is right before your eyes. I love that. I think that that quote kind of, exemplifies how I feel about life, which is you're complete. I'm complete. And any of the things I'm adding on to my life, any of the things that I'm working through, any of the challenges, it's working within completeness. It's learning, growing. When they talk about the don't know mind, that mind, it isn't like you don't know meaning dumb. It's you don't know meaning that you don't take on extra emotions and you don't take on more than what the current moment is challenging you with. And I really do appreciate that. One of the things I'm going to be working on and talking about in a future episode is stress management. I'm kind of high-strung, and I don't know if that comes across in the podcast. If you see me earlier, just like an hour earlier, trying to get everything to work, You would have been able to tell I was high strung, especially if you would have come in and said, "Hey, Jeremy, what are you doing?" I'm like, nah, I would have gone crazy because I was just so focused on the moment. But then I was very frustrated because things weren't coming together as I wanted them to. But it all came together. I just kept plugging away till I got the microphone into Pro Tools and thereafter, and it all worked out. Anyway, that's kind of it. Thank you for listening. Have an amazing week, and we'll see each other next week. Talk to you later.